It was a hot, sunny afternoon in Abeokuta, Ogun State. People were busy in the market, shouting their prices, while children played in the dusty streets, chasing each other with excitement. The sound of the town was lively and full of energy. But for one person, the day was about to change in a way they never expected. A young man named Dami walked down the narrow path towards Okilewo, his home. Dami had just finished work at a local printing shop and was eager to rest. He wiped his brow, the heat making his shirt stick to his back. But as he passed a small shop by the corner, something caught his eye. A man was standing there, his back turned to Dami, speaking to the shopkeeper in low, soft words. Dami couldn't see the man's face clearly, but he was dressed in a long, flowing robe, different from the clothes most people in Abeokuta wore. The man's clothes were old-fashioned, like something you would see in a movie about ancient kings, not a place like Abeokuta. Dami was curious. It wasn't the way the man looked that made him interested. It was something about the way he spoke to the shopkeeper. His voice had a strange, almost magical quality to it. The shopkeeper looked nervous, nodding quickly at everything the man said. Dami took a few steps closer, trying not to make any noise. As he got closer, he heard the shopkeeper whisper,
"Please, sir, I do not know anything about what you are asking. I swear."
The strange man paused. Then, he turned around. Dami froze. His heart skipped a beat. The man's face was covered with a black cloth, leaving only his eyes visible. But there was something in those eyes, something that made Dami's skin crawl. They were deep, dark, and unreadable, as if they could see right into his soul. The man took a step closer to the shopkeeper and said in a voice that seemed to echo around the quiet street,
"You will tell me what I want to know, or else I will take it."
Dami's heart raced. "Take it," he whispered to himself. What was the man talking about? Before Dami could move, the man turned his head and looked directly at him. The cold stare sent a chill down his spine. For a moment, everything was still. Dami stood frozen, not knowing what to do. He didn't want to make a sound, but his curiosity was too strong. The man's lips curved into a small, almost invisible smile. Then, without a word, he turned and disappeared into the small alleyway that led deeper into the town. Dami didn't know what to think. His mind raced with questions. Who was that man? What was he looking for in Abeokuta? And why did he look at him like that? Shaking his head, Dami decided to keep walking home. But the image of the man's dark eyes stayed with him, haunting him with each step. Later that evening, Dami gathered with his friends at the local suya spot. They sat around the fire, eating spicy meat and laughing, but Dami couldn't shake the strange feeling he had. He tried to talk about it, but no one seemed to understand. "Abi, Dami, you daydream," one of his friends, Chuka, laughed. That one no fit happened for Abeokuta. No story. But Dami was not convinced. There was something about that man that felt wrong. And as the night grew darker, Dami felt as though something was waiting for him. Something he couldn't see yet, but he could feel it coming closer, just beyond the corner. That night, Dami went to bed with his mind racing. He tried to sleep, but every little sound outside made him jump. The wind, the creaking of the trees, even the distant sound of a dog barking, it all seemed strange, like the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Around midnight, there was a knock on his door. Dami's heart pounded in his chest. Who could be knocking at this hour? He stood up slowly, careful not to make any noise. His eyes went to the window, but there was nothing outside. He checked the door again. Another knock, louder this time. His hand shook as he reached for the door handle. When he opened it, there was nobody there. But on the ground, right in front of his doorstep, was a small, wrapped bundle. Dami bent down, his heart racing. He opened the bundle carefully, and inside, there was an old, weathered book. The pages looked ancient, yellowed with age, and the cover was decorated with strange symbols Dami had never seen before. The book seemed to pulse in his hands, like it was alive. Before he could open it, he heard a voice. It was soft at first, like a whisper, but it grew louder and louder in his ears.
Finally, almost everything.
Dami froze, his blood turning cold. The voice was unmistakable. It was the same voice he had heard earlier that day, from the mysterious man. And at that moment, Dami knew his life in Abeokuta would never be the same again. Dami couldn't stop thinking about the book and the strange voice. What did the man want from him? Why was this happening? The book felt heavy in his hands, like it held secrets he wasn't ready to understand. Everything around him felt different now, like he had stepped into a world he didn't know. Dami knew one thing for sure: he needed to find out what was going on. But would he be able to? The next part of this story will reveal even more mysteries and maybe some dangers. What will happen to Dami? You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned for the next episode.